Hello, H2O families. Brian coming at you again with yet another Easter idea, a way that you can engage with your kids at home during Holy Week. This particular video is going to focus on communion. Our whole goal here is to give you some information, some ideas, some ways that you can engage with your kids during Holy Week, and especially specifically centered around communion. Now, a great way to kind of start a conversation to build into communion is to talk about holidays. Now, that may sound weird to you, but think about holidays. And holidays, we're stopping to remember and celebrate something. Think about a birthday, right? You can talk to your kids about their birthday. We celebrate birthdays. They're considered holidays because we're helping celebrate our children, or they're celebrating us. We're celebrating the day someone was born. We're remembering that day. We're remembering that person because they're important and we want to remember them. And you can talk about lots of holidays, Christmas, and you can talk about Easter. You can talk about July 4th, which is America's birthday. There are so many holidays you could talk about. You could talk about your anniversary, that you're remembering the day that you got married. So many different ways that you can talk about holidays. And you can begin to talk about the idea of remembering, the importance of remembering, and then you can use that idea to kind of launch you or springboard you into the idea of communion. Because communion at its core is Jesus telling his disciples that he wanted them to remember him. And this is something that they would already have understood, this idea of cup and bread and these types of things. They would have already understood this. In fact, what's really cool about the story of communion is that Jesus and his disciples were actually together to celebrate a holiday. They had come together to celebrate Passover. And you don't have to get into a bunch of detail about Passover. You can just tell your kids that they had come together to celebrate their own holiday. And during their dinner, in which they were celebrating, Jesus gives them a whole new way to remember him. And that's a great way to kind of launch in to the idea of communion. There are some great Bible passages. 1 Corinthians chapter 11 has a passage in there where Paul talks about communion. In the book of Luke chapter 22, there's another great section of verses that talk about communion. And we'll get to the Luke chapter 22 passage in just a second. But what we really want you to do is have a great way to begin having a conversation about holidays and remembering, and the fact that communion is all about remembering Jesus. And so in order to actually observe communion, we want to give you some really simple tools and a really simple way to go about doing this. And so when it comes to the actual observance of communion, when you've had kind of a conversation about holidays and remembering, we want to give you 3 M's. 3 M's that will help you engage with your kids around communion. The first one is mood. The mood. We want you to think about, what kind of mood can I create when I want to engage with my kids with this idea of communion. Think about things like candles, okay? So we have a couple of candles here. I'm not actually going to light them so I don't create a fire, but you can light some candles. You can put on some quiet, soft, worshipful music. You can dim the lights. You could get some nice tableware out, right? If you are a family who uses china or whatever it is. Do some things that you don't normally do, some things that would be special, and create a mood in the room so that your kids know something different is happening. We're stopping and pausing to remember Jesus. And so the first of the 3 M's is mood. The second thing we want to talk about is meaning. And meaning is really important because we want to make sure that we kind of talk to our kids about the meaning of what's happening. And so, for instance, we're going to have some bread. We're going to have, in this case, these are saltine crackers. You can use whatever you want. You can use goldfish. You can use bread. You can use unleavened bread. There's all kinds of things you could use. But the important thing is you have something that is like bread, like a cracker or whatever it is. And this cracker, Jesus says, represents his body that's going to be broken for them. And he wants them to remember him when they eat this bread. So you want to make sure you take a moment to tell your kids, this is representative. This is kind of what Jesus said would remind them of his body. But then Jesus goes on and he says, but wait, there's not just my body, but there's my blood. And so in their dinner, Jesus took some wine. Now, we're not going to use wine. We're going to use just standard grape juice. And you can pour some grape juice into a cup, and you can use that moment to talk to them about the importance of Jesus' blood. Jesus said that this cup represents my blood, which is going to be spilled out and used to cover the sins of many. So Jesus' blood is shed for our forgiveness. And so we want to talk about the importance of the bread representing Jesus' body, and we want to talk about the importance of the cup or the juice representing Jesus' blood. Now we know that can be weird for kids, but we want to make sure we emphasize the importance of the meaning of the bread and the juice. And then the last of the 3 M's is the meal. And that basically what that is that's where you actually take the bread and you actually drink the juice. And the verses in Luke chapter 22, starting in verse 7 and going all the way down through verse 19, kind of walk you through where Jesus talks to his disciples about him giving them the bread and it representing his body, and him giving them the cup or the wine and it representing his blood. And so we really want to encourage you to take some time during Holy Week. Thursday would be the great time to do it. It's traditionally the day that we celebrate the communion, and that would be a great time to do this with your kids. Remember, set the mood. Make sure you're letting them know something special is getting ready to happen. The meaning, what is the meaning of the bread and the juice? And then the meal, the moment where you actually engage in eating the bread and drinking the juice, and teaching your kids the importance of when they do this, that they're doing it to celebrate and remember Jesus and what he did for them. We hope this has been helpful to you. We hope that you'll engage with your kids at communion this Holy Week. We hope that you have a great Easter season. Thanks for watching.